Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of my Create This Book series by me and Moriah Elizabeth. Today I'm going to be doing 4 more prompts in the book. Before I begin, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's see what we can come up with for today's video. The first prompt of the day already had me overthinking. It was to create obscure shapes. So first I'm grabbing my fake plant paperweight, putting that down to hold down my paper, and now it's time to focus on this. So I can't make any recognizable shapes. I decided I was going to do Posca pens on this page to really make my shapes pop. And for my color scheme, I'm going with a spring color palette, starting with green for some plant life. But I thought about it, and in order to not make any recognizable shapes, I thought I'm going to avoid all lines, because when you start adding lines to things, that's when shapes are made. Like for example, a triangle is just 3 connecting lines. A quadrilateral is any 4 connecting lines. So it gets really tricky really fast to not make shapes with lines. So I decided to just do blobs, and I'm starting off with green, adding in a variation of line width and solid colors as well. Started off with my pink and it had some other colors mixed into it. That's my bad. And then I filled this one in completely. I felt like I needed to add a little bit more warmth into this page, so I grabbed this warmer pink color to add into this drawing as well, and again went along with the theme of just blobs. That is the only way I could think to avoid any shapes, so I just tried to create really fluid shapes and designs and tried to make it really abstract and just not recognizable as anything. That's the best way I felt like I could approach this prompt and do it correctly. So I just filled in everywhere that I saw fit with this, and then I decided to try and connect the 2 pages with a little blob in between them. And then I went ahead and with a purple to also add in more colors, but I was definitely trying to stick to warmer colors and create kind of a springtime feel. After I had added in all of my light purple, I still felt like the drawing wasn't warm enough, and I wanted to add in warmer colored blobs, so I grabbed my dark Posca pens and grabbed this raspberry red color and decided to go in and do a whole bunch of designs with this color as well, again still following that theme of blobs as to not ruin the prompt. So I was just trying to make a whole bunch of unrecognizable shapes, and I was definitely doing that by sticking to the rounded edges and not making anything recognizable. The color scheme and the blobs still really weren't doing it for me, so I brought in my gold Signo gel pen, and this is when these blobs transformed into something more magical. So I used this gold pretty much everywhere all over the drawing to add in some detail, and again stuck with the blobs. I mostly just outlined things that were already there. That way I knew I wouldn't make the mistake of creating shapes. So then I went ahead and everywhere with the gold gel pen to make it sparkle and shine, and then afterwards I just kept on going on the other page as well, and I didn't create any recognizable shapes. You let me know if you think that I did, but the only thing that's semi-recognizable as a shape that's not actually a shape is this dinosaur looking line art here, and dinosaur isn't a shape. So I feel like I still succeeded in not creating anything recognizable, but you let me know what you think. Here's how it turned out. Now let's take a look at that gold shine. I think it's so beautiful and adds so much to the page. And now let's move on to the next prompt of the day, which is to create boredom. Now, I knew immediately that I wanted to use gray to convey boredom, but then I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, like how could I come up with something bored when these guys were looking at me? But anyway, I finally decided on something, and as you can see here, I am writing out the quadratic formula. So I decided that my boring thing to make this page boring would be to include some math, because not everybody thinks math is boring, but I definitely do. But I'm actually shocked because I am using these equations not in school. You know, one of the complaints people have is I'm never going to use these outside in my day-to-day life, and that is true, okay? For me, that's true. But I don't know, here I am writing these equations. I even decided to solve one, which I was very happy that I still could and still knew how. It was very simple, but I even checked it to make sure it was right. And when those answers equaled each other, I was very happy. I wrote math, and here's our completed boring page, which I actually kind of had fun with, but don't tell anybody. But anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think math is boring, or do you think I was too hard on this? I don't know, let me know. But now it's time to move on to the next prompt of the day, which is to create doodles. So I'm supposed to fill the entire page page with doodles, I grabbed a pencil because that to me says doodle, and then I decided to just draw out everything without thinking. That was one of the prompts of it, was to not be mindful about what you were drawing, just to doodle mindlessly. So that's what I'm trying to do, just doodle whatever comes into my head, pretending that I am in math class and that I don't want to listen, and I'm doing this instead. I'm kidding about the not listening thing. I've actually heard doodling can increase your ability to listen. But anyway, I'm going ahead and just doodling whatever comes to mind, putting in random shapes, random blobs, and this is something that I used to do a lot of in school just for fun. And so I just fill in all of the blank space with different lines, and then I mainly use flowers and like fun little designs like that to fill in the blank spaces in between. This page took forever to fill with doodles, and I kept running out of ideas, but every time I would be like, no, just whatever comes to mind, just doodle. So a lot of flowers and just random shapes, but that was part of it. I decided to write create at the top of this page, and then it was done. So now it's time to do the other page. I really was trying to get myself not to. I was trying to convince myself we didn't need to, but the prompt says the entire page. I even tried to stop again here. I was like, oh, that's a good little, in between stage of, look, there's some doodles, but not the entire page of doodles on this page. But no, I had to keep going because the prompt says everything with doodles. So that's what I did. I just kept on doodling till I could not doodle anymore. I actually started getting dizzy looking at all these doodles and doodling for so long. I think this page took me almost an hour to doodle through, and that was intense. I decided to write create at the bottom of this one as well, filled in those lines, and then it was completely completed and full of doodles, which actually looks pretty cool and was actually a lot of fun. It was actually pretty intense though. So now it's time for the last prompt, which is to create a fantasy home, and I chose to create a fantasy home located in Hobbiton. At first, I thought that this prompt meant to create a dream home, like create a design layout for your dream home and whatever, and I was like, that is way too intense for me and my brain. But then I reread the prompt and I was like, oh, it's create a fantasy home in a fantasy location. So I decided I would create a hobbit home that I would customize to be more personal to me. So I drew out my little hill, my door, and now I'm going in with the colors. I decided I would have a blue hobbit door because blue is my favorite color, and I decided to use Posca pens because I just felt like they would give me the most coverage, the quickest in the book. So that's what I'm going with. And now I'm adding in my little wood details and accents because hobbit homes are very earthy and that kind of vibe. So that's what I'm going with. I decided I would have 2 little windowsills that I would possibly fill with some flowers later on. I was really thinking this through, okay? Like if this was my dream hobbit home, what would I want it to look like? This is a little more like dream hobbit home before I've moved in. Like I haven't customized it and personalized it. We've got no welcome mat, no sign on the door yet, but this is like, that stage of looking at homes. But anyway, then I'm coloring in the steps. I decided to add in a little like pathway in the front with all of the grass growing around. So that's what I did, just colored everything in, added a couple of details to it, added in my doorknob, of course, because I need to be able to get inside. And then I decided to add in a little bit of detailing and some wood details with this blue Posca pen and added a little bit of shading as well. I made the exterior of my house this ivory kind of yellowish white color. I felt like that would really complement the earthy tones everywhere else. And then it was time to finally start working on the landscaping aspect of the house. So I added in a couple of bushes, some tall grass. I really like the idea of, like one of those grassies that aren't tamed, like one of those wild grass yards, grassies that aren't tamed. What was that? I don't know, but you know what I'm trying to say. And then I added in a little hill as well because you have to live under a hill if you're a hobbit, and I guess now I'm a hobbit too. But anyway, then I added in some little details to the grass and everything, and then it was time to finally color in the actual grass. So I went in and added various shades of green to really make it a little more detailed and realistic looking. Not that this looks realistic, but I just mean to add multiple varieties and shades of color. And then I finally decided to color in the grass on the side of the house as well to add in that wild grass effect that I was talking about before. Now it's time to go in and color in the path because that definitely needs to be colored. I was trying to decide between gray bricks or brown, but I decided on doing like a brown kind of maybe dirt path, and then added in some shading to that, and then I added in shading to the house. house, decided to finally add in some flowers to really complete the design and add in some love into it, and then this one was completed as well. So let me know what you think about my Hobbit home. It was really simple but also really fun to create and think about. But let's take a look back at the first prompt of the day, which was to create obscure shapes. So I used Posca pens to create a whole bunch of colorful blobs and avoided any lines to avoid creating any shapes. And I also added in gold accent blobs that also did not have shapes except a dinosaur possibly to make this page, and I think I definitely followed the prompt. The next prompt of the day was to create boredom and make the page boring. So I wrote out math equations and formulas and just filled that out, and I even solved an equation, which was just actually kind of fun, but don't tell anybody because that's not boring. And then after that, it was time to create a page full of doodles. So I filled the entire thing full of doodles, mostly flowers, lines, and just odd different shapes, but it was a lot of fun and actually kind of challenging, but in a very good fun way. And then the last prompt of the day was to create a fantasy house, and mine was located in Hobbiton. So here's my fantasy home, complete with the blue door. I think it turned out so cute and I had so much fun with it. Let me know which prompt from today was your favorite. I can't pick one. I actually had a lot of fun with all of these. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!